Good morning, women of faith, women of wisdom in the Wisdom Clinic. I want to take a few minutes and talk to you about the importance of guarding your heart. All right. When you think about the heart, it's the seat of your mind, will, and emotions. So when the Bible tells us to guard our heart, our mind, will, and emotions, because out of it flows the issues of life. Those issues being anything that happens in your personal life, anything that happens in your business life, and your family life. You have to guard your mind, will, and emotions, because what happens is when you allow yourself to take on discouragement when it shows up without casting it down, when you allow yourself to take on frustration without casting it down, when you allow yourself to take on anger without casting it down, then what happens is you become a victim of the external controlling your internal. We are not supposed to be governed by the things that are outside of us, which is why so many people go through things in their mind, because they allow the outside world to control what's going on in the inside. I did a meme yesterday and I said, let me put my seatbelt on. I did a meme and I posted on Facebook, and the meme said, you have to lead from the outside in, right? You lead from the outside, right? And how we lead we have to lead from where we are. We lead from where we are, right? So when we lead from where we are, that means that wherever we are in our mindset, some people think we got to be in a particular position to operate in leadership. Leadership just means that you've taken accountability for taking control over your mind first. When you take control over your mind, now you're in position to show other people how to take control over their mind. Notice that I didn't say take control over people. The greatest leadership that you can actually operate in is the one where you control your own mind. When you control your own heart, your own mind, will, and emotions, then you can show other people how to control their mind, will, and emotions. That is what leadership really is. Leadership is not basically just being in a particular position as it is as being a particular position in your mind. Because most people give up that are in different positions of what we consider to be leadership, give up when situations or things happen because they allowed what happened on the external to interfere with the internal. And what we have to realize is that we have to make sure that we be good stewards over what happens on the inside of our mind, what happens in our heart, what happens in our heart and our mind. And we have to guard that, because if we don't, then out of it's going to flow issues of life. That means that if you don't take control and be a good steward over your mind, and being a good steward means that that whenever you start to, because we get a lot of thoughts that come into our mind on a minute to minute basis, right? Being a good steward means that you don't allow all these different words and phrases and discouragement to go through your mind without taking it captive. Right? So when things start to come against your mind that causes you to be discouragement is a symptom of a limiting belief or hope deferred, right? Because the Bible said hope deferred makes the heart sick. So when you start to be discouraged, that means that something has caused your focus, something has come in and shifted your focus, shifted your mind to a different place, which is why you're discouraged, right? So you have to learn how to take captive of every thought. And it may seem tedious when you talk about it. It may seem like, oh yeah, that's easier said than done. It is easier said than done, right? It is easier said, which is why you have to be intentional. And with practice, with practice, it gets easier and easier to do. You don't get to take captive every thought and then it works every time. Sometimes you have to practice. Sometimes when something comes across your mind and causes you to get confused or causes you to be disappointed or hurt, you have to take captive. It doesn't mean that you don't feel it. It don't mean that you don't get to see you don't get to express the human side of that emotion. It just means that you've taken it captive. And so taking it captive means you're taking control of the effect of what it's going to do to you in your mind. So when somebody says that you're not good enough, or somebody says that you're a failure, or somebody says you're anything that comes against the knowledge, anything that comes against the character of who you are, you have to take it captive. Up, you got to do like that. You got to catch it like up, and you got to cast it down, right? Because you don't want it to take. The whole point of casting it down is not allowing it to take root, so it doesn't change your mental state. Because once it takes root, it changes your mental state, and then what happens? You become discouraged. You become angry, or it takes you out of your seat of peace, right? So I just wanted to just share that with you. And it's something that, like I said, you have to be intentional about. Something you have to do on a consistent basis. I do it on a continual, consistent basis. When things come against my mind, when things come against my intentions, and I feel discouraged, then I know that I've allowed something to slip through. I've allowed somebody's words, or allowed the spirit behind what somebody says to get rooted. So I have to so when thoughts come into my mind now, I have to take it captive. Okay, what spirit is this coming from? What's the assignment of the words that's being thrown into my mind? Because you may not be able to control everything that goes into your mind, but what you can control is you can be a good steward and take control over what takes root. I'm going to say that again. You may not be able to control fear when it comes to your mind, but you can control it taking root. You may not be able to control when discouragement comes up against your mind, but what you can control is the ability for it to take root. So guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Don't allow the issues of life to cause you to shift you out of position, and now you're operating in survival mode and not operating in faith. Because anything outside of faith, when you think about when you're discouraged, it breeds anxiety. The Bible says fear brings on torment, right? When you're fearful, it brings on torment. It makes you feel like you hopeless, right? But what happens is your faith starts to disintegrate. Your body disintegrates, because what faith does to your body is it causes your body. Well, I mean, not faith. What fear does to your body is it causes your immune system to break down. So think about it like that. When you are discouraged, it's because your body is at a point of anxiety, and it's causing your immune system to shut down, right? And so that's what happens. That's why you see people who are stressed, it starts to show in their physical body. They start having heart attacks or something, their blood pressure raises up. But when you operate in faith, it causes you to live. It causes you to be at peace. It causes you to live, right? Versus die and disintegrate. So you're either going to be at a position where you're going to take that thought captive and cast it down, right? Because the Bible said casting down every imagination and every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of God, right? And we know that God's thoughts about us are good and not evil. So we know that when there's thoughts that come against our mind, if it comes against who God says we are as a kingdom, if it comes against who God says we are as a kingdom-minded individual, then we got to cast it down. So you can't cast down and get an agreement with something that you don't know, right? So we study the word so that we can know who we are in the kingdom, so that we can know the power that's made available to us in the kingdom, right? When we know the power that's made available to us in the kingdom, it becomes easier to cast stuff down, right? It becomes easier to take thoughts captive that have nothing to do with edifying you and causing you to grow in your area and grow in your faith, right? So I just wanted to kind of just come on and just kind of talk about that. Make sure you join us tonight. I'm gonna be talking to Kayla Kravitz. She's a confidence coach. Kayla lives in the UK and she's an awesome woman of God. Awesome. So I'm looking forward to being able to dialogue with Kayla. And so make sure you guys come back and join me on Sisterhood Check-In tonight at 10 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you guys. I hope you have an amazing and a blessed day.